Her granddaughter rammed a shopping cart into her, then laughed while TikTok watched. Gloria Thompson, retired librarian and widow, didn't say a word. By nightfall, the college fund was gone, the passwords changed, and the will rewritten. She had raised a child, then a grandchild, alone without applause. Now she was erasing the entitlement, not the love. And when they came knocking, the locks and the legacy had already changed. The cereal box slipped from Gloria's hands before it ever hit the conveyor belt. Not because she dropped it, but because Lacey, her 20-year-old granddaughter in ripped jeans and an oversized hoodie, shoved the cart forward with a jolt that rammed hard into Gloria's hip. The metal edge scraped her thigh through her slacks, sharp and startling. "Move already," Lacey muttered, loud enough for the cashier to pause mid-scan. Her phone was angled in one hand, screen open to TikTok. She didn't glance up. "We've been here for 10 minutes. This isn't the DMV." Gloria didn't respond. She bent slowly to retrieve the box, ignoring the burning in her hip. Around her, the line of strangers fell into a strained hush, punctuated by the beep, beep, beep of scanned groceries and one kid's restless foot tapping against a freezer chest. No one stepped in. No one needed to. Humiliation, Gloria had learned, didn't require an audience's outrage to settle like dust on your shoulders. Just silence. Lacey was already walking past the card reader, phone still rolling. "I'll just Uber," she said without turning around. "I have plans." She didn't mention what they were or who they were with. She didn't say goodbye. The automatic doors whooshed open and closed behind her like punctuation on the sentence she didn't bother finishing. By the time the cashier handed Gloria the receipt, her hands had stopped shaking, not from peace, but from restraint. Dignity, she reminded herself, was often quieter than it wanted to be. She walked to the car alone, placed the bags in the trunk, and sat in the driver's seat with both hands resting on the wheel for a long while before turning the key. Her reflection in the rearview mirror showed the faint smear of pink across her cheekbone, too soft to be called a bruise, too fresh to be forgotten. She drove home in near silence, save for the steady click of the turn signal at each red light. Her house, one-story yellow brick with petunias beginning to wilt along the porch rail, looked unchanged. But something about the way the sun hit the windows felt colder, distant. Inside, she placed the bags on the kitchen table, took her time, unpacked each item with precise care. Milk into the fridge, cereal into the cupboard, paper towels stacked, not stuffed. Only once everything was put away did she walk to the study, where the air was always a few degrees cooler. She didn't take off her coat. She opened the laptop. The login screen blinked up at her, like a question she hadn't yet decided to answer. Her fingers moved deliberately across the keys: banking, investments, tax folders. She clicked through each one until she reached the portal she hadn't opened in almost a year, the 529 College Fund. Her granddaughter's name sat at the top of the dashboard, Lacey Harper Thompson. Gloria stared at it for a moment, a name she had written on birthday cards, school forms, doctor's paperwork. A name she'd once spelled out while teaching her how to tie shoes, how to write cursive. Balance available, $84,192.37. She leaned back in her chair. $84,000. Every cent of it untouched, saved since Lacey was in second grade. Birthday checks, tax refunds, side jobs Gloria took at the library after her arthritis flared up. All of it stacked into that fund like hope layered into a safety net. Her hand didn't shake when she clicked the menu tab. She didn't make a move yet, just hovered over Manage Account. Then she opened a clean tab beside it, typed Balcony Suites Solo Cruises 60-plus Women. As the results loaded, a faint smirk touched her lips for the first time that day. No decision was made, not yet. But a question had been answered. She would no longer be the ride left behind. The next morning, Gloria made tea instead of coffee. Not out of ritual, but intention. Coffee rushed the blood. Tea let the thoughts steep. By the time the mug was half empty and her bones had adjusted to the ache behind her knees, she reached for her reading glasses and dialed the number from the file labeled Lacey Fund Legal. A chirpy hold jingle played for a few moments before a voice came through, measured, polite, slightly too upbeat for the kind of call she planned to make. "Hello, this is Emma with Brighter Future Investments. How can I help you today?" "This is Gloria Thompson," she said evenly, "account holder of the 529 plan under Lacey Harper Thompson. I'd like to terminate the fund." There was a pause, then the shuffle of keyboard strokes. Let me just pull that up. Yes, I see it here. That's a sizable amount. May I ask why you're closing the account? You may ask, Gloria said. She didn't offer more. Another pause. Well, as you know, early withdrawal for non-educational purposes will result in tax implications and a penalty on any gains. I always recommend clients consider— I've considered, Gloria interrupted. Please send me the forms. Her voice was calm, not defiant, not cold, just done. Of course, email or hard copy. Email, she said, and gave her address. I'll print and sign. They ended the call without any sentiment. No pitch to stay, no offer to revise the goal, just a quiet, digital unraveling of 20 years of planning. An hour later, Gloria opened the attachment, read every word twice, then printed it on thick ivory paper. She signed in black ink, scanning the document against the backdrop of a ticking wall clock, the same one that had hung in the kitchen since Brent was in high school. She submitted the form. It was done. By afternoon, the confirmation email arrived. Funds released, penalty deducted, remainder deposited. She closed the tab, then opened another, cruiselux.com. She scrolled through photos of ships cutting through sapphire water, of silver-haired women laughing on balconies, book clubs at sea, yoga on teak decks. The prices didn't startle her, not anymore. She chose a 12-night itinerary down the eastern seaboard. Charleston, Bermuda, Key West. Balcony suite, solo cabin, priority boarding, and a bottle of sparkling wine waiting on arrival. She typed in her card information, clicked confirm. When the receipt popped up on screen, she printed that too, tucking it into the same leather folio where the education withdrawal had gone. Then, with a flick of impulse she didn't usually indulge, Gloria opened a blank postcard from the drawer. She wrote in her neat, slanted cursive, "Paid in full in more ways than one, G." She addressed it to herself and smiled. She'd asked the concierge on the ship to mail it. That night, as the sun dipped behind the neighbor's oak tree and the scent of rain hovered in the air, her phone buzzed on the side table. "Lacey, did FAFSA glitch or something? I'm short WTOF." No greeting, no punctuation, just expectation. Gloria stared at the message, then opened her keyboard. She typed slowly, letting each word settle before the next appeared. Gloria, apply again. With respect this time. She hit send, set the phone face down. In the background, the kettle whistled again, as if applauding her silence. She walked back to the kitchen and poured herself another cup of tea, this time adding a slice of lemon. It was tart, honest, just right. And tomorrow she'd start making a packing list. The phone rang just as Gloria had finished organizing her packing cubes. She didn't rush to answer. She let it ring twice, 3 times, before lifting the receiver and pressing it to her ear like someone holding a cold coin. "Mom?" Brent's voice came, filtered through speaker static and a layer of forced calm. "Can we talk?" She didn't answer right away. He filled the silence with a sigh. "Look, I know things with Lacey got a little tense, but she's under a lot of pressure. Midterms, job stuff. Everything's expensive now." "Brent," Gloria sat down, the edge of the bed dipping beneath her. "She shoved me at a checkout line and left me standing there while she filmed it." A pause. "Yeah, but—" "There's no but," she said quietly. Brent's voice flattened. She didn't mean it like that. "No one ever does," Gloria replied. "But you still did nothing." Again, a low click of his tongue. "I didn't raise her to be this way." "You didn't raise her," Gloria said. The words landed not with venom, but with precision. "I did." That silenced him. She leaned forward slightly, cradling the phone against her shoulder. Her eyes drifted across the room, landing on the mantel where an old photo rested in a brass frame. Lacey, age 10, her arms wrapped tightly around Gloria's neck, cheeks flushed from some forgotten outdoor game, joy blooming freely across her face. Gloria was laughing in the picture, mid-expression, not posed, real. That little girl had brought her macaroni art and apologized for feeding too many carrots to the dog. That little girl had curled into her arms after nightmares and asked, "Will you still be here when I grow up?" Gloria had promised yes. She hadn't known how wrong she'd be. "She lost her mother at 5, she said now, voice steady. "And you lost your wife. But I lost my chance to be anything else. I worked, I soothed. I juggled grief and homework and casseroles and carpool. I braided her hair when her hands were too small and picked up her prescriptions when yours were too full." Brent was silent. "I made every Thanksgiving meal, every birthday cake. I called the dentist when she chipped her tooth and stayed up with her when her first period came. You cut checks. I kept her whole. Mom, Brent tried again, but his voice was smaller now. She's not just stressed, Gloria said. She's learned to treat me like an obstacle, and she didn't learn that on her own. Click. She ended the call, not in anger but in completion. She stood and walked to the bookshelf, pulled down the small black camcorder she used once a year at holidays, dusted now, but still functional. She set it on the table, flipped open the lens cap, and hit record. To whoever comes after me, she began. No, this wasn't sudden. There wasn't one moment. There were hundreds, 1,000 little dismissals, deflections, assumptions, some said with a smile. Some never said at all. She adjusted the camera angle, leaned slightly forward. I loved them. That's why I stayed so long. That's why I kept saying yes. But love without respect starts to sound like begging. She clicked the record button again. The camera whirred softly and fell silent. Later that evening, the sky turned a dusky blue that made her windows look like watercolor panes. Gloria opened her laptop and pulled up the cruise itinerary again. She clicked the chat window. Travel agent Ava, welcome back, Miss Thompson. How can I help? Gloria, I'd like to extend. Is there a way to add an extra leg or join a second itinerary? A few minutes passed. Then Ava, yes, actually. We have a linked route from Key West through the Southern Caribbean. Would you like the same suite? Gloria, no, Ava. Any preferences? Surprise me. Just make sure it faces the water. She closed the laptop and reached for her pen. On the back of the cruise pamphlet, she scribbled 4 words that didn't need to go in any will or journal. Not their version anymore. The bank's hold music was more cheerful than it had any right to be. Gloria sat at the kitchen table, pen poised over a yellow legal pad, though she hadn't written a single word. Her tea had gone cold an hour ago. Finally, a voice answered. Thank you for holding, Mrs. Thompson. You said there was unfamiliar activity tied to a co-signed education loan? Yes, Gloria said. There's a disbursement request I never authorized. The signature on the form isn't mine. More keyboard clacking. A faint sigh. Okay, I do see the file. We'll initiate a verification process, but we'll need you to confirm via fax or secure email that the signature is being disputed. I'll have it to you within the hour. Just so you know, the agent added, the loan will be paused pending investigation. If fraud is confirmed, any additional payouts will be frozen. Good, Gloria replied. That's exactly what I want. When she hung up, she didn't get up right away. Instead, she sat in silence, letting the quiet stretch around her like a shawl. The weight of what she just triggered didn't feel like a burden. It felt like correction, a spine snapping back into alignment. She stood, walked to the small file cabinet in the corner of the living room, and pulled out the accordion folder marked Accounts Active. Her fingers moved with practiced precision. Within minutes, she had logged into her bank's online dashboard, savings, checking, credit union, IRA, and there, near the bottom of the profile list, a line she hadn't remembered authorizing, Beneficiary Secondary Access, L.H. Thompson. Her hand hovered over the mouse. She clicked into the tab, reviewing the permissions. Emergency disbursements, co-signed release, limited withdrawal rights. It had been a backup fund, a secondary account she'd kept from her teaching days. She remembered the day she added Lacey years ago after a minor car accident had shaken her. Just in case something happened, she'd said, just in case. She clicked Remove Authorized User. A warning box popped up. Are you sure? She clicked yes. Then she scrolled further down and initiated a security freeze on all linked profiles. Full verification required for future access. Multi-factor authentication. Voice print. Not just passwords anymore. She wasn't leaving the door cracked. She was replacing the hinges. Later that afternoon, she played the voicemail. It had been sitting there since that morning, blinking like a neglected lighthouse. Grandma, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Please don't escalate this. I didn't think you'd even notice it was for school. I thought you want to help him. Sorry, okay, please don't make it worse. Gloria played the message twice. Then she deleted it. That night, she sat down at her desk and drafted an email to Nora Bennett, Esquire. Subject, Living Will Immediate Revision. Hi, Nora. I'd like to move forward with a complete revision of my living will. Please ensure all language is precise and binding. No assumptions, no informal clauses. We'll need to include full asset protection, digital legacy protocols, and a beneficiary review. Let's schedule something by end of week. Warmly, Gloria. She hit send. Then she opened her browser and searched leather-bound legal binder fireproof interior. She chose one with gold-accented tabs and archival quality sleeves. It came in navy, mahogany, and burgundy. She selected burgundy, the same color she wore to Lacey's 8th grade promotion, the last time Lacey had held her hand in public. As the order confirmation arrived, Gloria looked out her front window. The streetlights had just begun to hum, casting long, soft shadows across the lawn. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel like someone who had been left behind. She felt like someone preparing to leave, with everything exactly where she wanted it, and someone exactly where she no longer belonged. Nora arrived 10 minutes early, as she always did, a small courtesy Gloria had come to value. She greeted her at the door with chamomile tea already steeping and a folder labeled Revision Draft Living Will resting on the coffee table between two coasters. They didn't make small talk. "You said you wanted something stronger," Nora began, placing her briefcase down and removing 2 forms secured with binder clips. "Stronger language, less ambiguity." Gloria nodded. "No more loopholes." "There's a clause I've used before," Nora continued. "Triggers in cases of demonstrated emotional abuse, not just physical, documented mistreatment, coercion, digital harassment. Any of it nullifies entitlement." Gloria's brow lifted. "That's enforceable?" Nora's voice was calm. "If the evidence exists, and from what you've shared, it does." Without hesitation, Gloria picked up the pen and signed the first page. Then the second, then the third. By the time she sealed her initials on the addendum, she'd written her name 12 times in total. Each curve of her signature felt like a tiny chisel strike, etching her intentions into something unshakable. When it was done, she sat back in her chair, exhaled, and reached for a different envelope resting on the mantel. "I want to add a new name," she said, "not as a backup, as the first." Nora didn't blink. "Okay. Who?" Gloria handed her a sticky note. "Nia Bennett, Devati Barista, River and Pine Cafe." "A relative?" Nora asked. "No," Gloria said. "Just someone who saw me fall once and didn't laugh, didn't film it, just helped." Gloria remembered it vividly. Last November, the icy curb, the hard landing, her knee pulsing with pain. Nia had been carrying 2 coffees and a bag of muffins, none of which she dropped. She'd crouched, helped Gloria up, and offered a seat in the cafe without fuss, without pity, just presence. "She checked on me twice after that," Gloria said quietly. "Didn't ask for anything." "Kindness with no invoice," Nora murmured. "That's rare." Gloria reached behind her and retrieved a small paperback, The Long Goodbye, its spine soft from years of gentle handling. She slipped a business card inside, Nora's card, and sealed it with a ribbon. "She doesn't know this is coming," she said, "but I want her to be prepared. I want her to know she mattered." Later that day, after Nora had gone and the documents were stored in the new binder, still sealed in its burgundy packaging, Gloria drove to the Community Foundation office on Main Street. The woman behind the desk wore glasses on a beaded chain and greeted her by name. "I'd like to make a donation," Gloria said. "In full." The form took 10 minutes to fill. The amount matched what remained of Lacey's once-intended graduation fund. Recipient: Future First, a program for women aging out of foster care. Note: in honor of what resilience looks like when no one's watching. When Gloria returned home, her phone rang. The screen flashed Brent. She debated letting it go to voicemail, but something in her spine said, "No, let him hear this." Landline voice, let it echo a little. She picked up. "She's having a breakdown," Brent said immediately. "Lacey, she's crying every day. Her friends say she barely eats. What are you doing to her?" Gloria didn't answer for a long time. She let the seconds pass like syrup over pancakes. Slow, undeniable. "I'm not doing anything to her," she said finally. "I'm simply refusing to keep doing everything for her. She needs stability." "She had it," Gloria interrupted. "She inherited a full foundation. All she ever had to do was build something on it. Instead, she tried to bulldoze mine." "She's young," Brent offered, his voice more plea than logic. "Then maybe," Gloria said evenly, "she'll rebuild something better." She hung up. No fury, no sadness, just the clean edge of release. She turned to her shelf and placed the gift-wrapped book beside the door. Tomorrow she'd go to River and Pine and leave a future where someone once left her dignity intact. Gloria left before sunrise. She moved like someone turning the final page of a chapter, quiet, deliberate, unburdened by the need to explain what came next. No calls, no messages, no social media breadcrumbs. Just a handwritten note taped to the refrigerator door, centered just beneath the magnet shaped like a lighthouse. Gone to remember who I was. G. Her suitcase rolled gently across the driveway, wheels clicking in rhythm against the cracks Brent had once promised to fix. The town still slept. The porch light timed out behind her. She didn't glance back. At the airport, everything smelled faintly of coffee and floor wax. Overhead, announcements droned like distant memories. Gloria moved through it all with a kind of steady invisibility. TSA waved her through without fuss. Her gate was half full, mostly business travelers and retirees pairing crossword books with cinnamon muffins. She sat in a corner seat and opened her paperback, though she didn't read. Instead, her eyes drifted past the words and toward a mother-daughter pair near the vending machines. The daughter, early 20s maybe, was waving her phone around and snapping photos. The mother trailed behind, clutching a tote, her coat slipping from one shoulder. The daughter rolled her eyes and said something too loud, then nudged, no, shoved, the woman forward. Gloria flinched. Not outwardly, but something inside her recoiled. A familiar heat spread across her chest. She turned away before the moment could root itself in her, before it grew heavy with memory. She stood when her group was called, handed over her boarding pass, and stepped down the jetway into something unpromised but hers. Inside the cabin, the lights glowed soft and amber. A flight attendant greeted her with a practiced smile and a flute of champagne already bubbling on a tray. "Welcome aboard, Miss Thompson." She took the glass and slipped into her seat by the window. Balcony suite on sea aisle. Seat in air. She adjusted the scarf around her neck, leaned back, and let the hum of pre-flight checks lull her into a silence she didn't need to fill. As the plane lifted off, the city below blurred into a scatter of light and shadow. She sipped the champagne, dry, cold, celebratory. A few hours later, after the seatbelt sign flicked off and the cabin dimmed into evening tones, Gloria heard a soft voice to her left. "Excuse me, Miss Thompson?" She turned. Naya stood beside her row, eyes glassy, mouth pulled into a hesitant smile. She wore a crew neck sweatshirt 2 sizes too big and clutched the long goodbye against her chest like it might fly away if she didn't hold tight. "I didn't know how to thank you," Nia whispered. I've never been anyone's family before." Gloria blinked. She hadn't expected to cry today, but the tears arrived anyway, small, dignified, unannounced. She reached over, took Nia's hand, and gave it a gentle squeeze. "You are now," Gloria said simply. They didn't need to say more. The seat beside her had been empty until then. Now Nia settled in. She tucked her bag under the seat, slipped the book into the pouch, and leaned back with a breath that sounded like someone finally exhaling after years of holding it in. The plane banked slightly, windows tilting toward the moonlit curve of ocean below. Gloria looked out, fingers brushing the armrest. No headlines, no inheritance battles, no texts blinking with panic. Just sky, sea, and the girl beside her. Grateful. Real, chosen, and somewhere back home a fridge note waited quietly to be read. Gloria smiled to herself. Not everyone deserved a forwarding address. The voicemails began the second night at sea, 5 of them blinking red on the in-room phone Gloria hadn't planned to use. All from Brent, all with that same cracked urgency, equal parts concern and control. "Mom, can you please call me back? I don't know what's going on, but this isn't like you. She's falling apart over here. Can we just talk?" Each one shorter than the last, more strained, more panicked. None returned. Gloria listened to them once, then deleted each with a press of her thumb as if dusting crumbs off a clean table. Outside, the ocean stretched wide and blue, indifferent to voicemail or memory. Gloria slipped on her wrap, grabbed her sun hat, and stepped onto the deck, letting the breeze meet her like an old friend. She walked slow laps across the polished planks, nodding at couples and retirees with lanyards, letting the sound of the water drown everything she'd already left behind. She found Nia seated near the stern, legs folded beneath her, a journal open on her lap. Her hair was pulled into a loose bun, and she had the look of someone trying not to take up space, but slowly learning she could. "Hey," Nia said, scooting over. "I was hoping you'd come out." Gloria sat beside her. The wind pulled at the edge of her shawl. "You ever regret it?" Nia asked, not looking over. "Walking away?" Gloria tilted her head. "Regret implies the other road was paved." Nia smiled faintly. I never knew my mother, group homes mostly, a couple of good ones, a few bad. Got out at 18, worked 3 jobs, applied to college twice, never got in. Thought maybe if I acted like I didn't need anyone, it would hurt less when no one showed up. Gloria didn't respond. She just placed her hand lightly over Nia's for a moment, a gesture more enduring than any advice. I used to think the best thing I'd ever do was survive, Nia whispered. Now I think maybe it's this. You are not a detour in someone else's legacy, Gloria said. You are your own beginning. They sat in silence, the ship slicing clean through calm waters. Later, back in her suite, Gloria powered on her laptop. She wasn't sure what compelled her, habit maybe, or simple curiosity. But she opened her email, filtering through newsletters and booking confirmations. One stood out. From Dean Walker, Student Conduct Office. Subject, Case Resolution, Lacey Harper Thompson. Gloria clicked it open. The letter was formal, dry, but the message behind it blistered with implication. Lacey had been placed on academic suspension pending a financial misconduct investigation, unauthorized access to family financial accounts, tampered FAFSA documentation. An ethics committee review would follow. Gloria stared at the screen, blinking once. Then she pressed print. The tiny in-suite printer chugged to life, inching the letter out like a truth finally allowed into the light. Gloria folded it carefully, slid it between the pages of her travel journal, and zipped the cover shut. She walked back to the balcony. The sun was lowering itself into the ocean, the sky a tapestry of molten gold and bruised lavender. Below, waves folded over each other with quiet confidence. Gloria rested both hands on the railing. Behind her, a door opened and closed, a couple returning from dinner. Their laughter was soft, fading. In front of her, the sea just kept moving. It doesn't forgive, she said aloud, voice barely louder than breath, but it moves forward. A gull coasted past, its wings open wide, catching a draft Gloria couldn't see but could almost feel. She smiled, not in triumph, but in peace, and went back inside to write. The email from her neighbor arrived mid-morning, just as the cruise ship was preparing to dock in Key West. Gloria read it while sipping strong black tea from the balcony, watching pelicans glide over the water like wind-borne punctuation marks. Subject, your letter came. Body. Opened it like you asked, just one page, typed, no signature. Want me to scan it? Gloria replied, no need, just read it out loud to me. She stepped inside and let the door slide shut behind her, muffling the wind. When the phone rang, she answered on the first ring. It's from Lacey, the neighbor confirmed, voice cautious. Reads like an apology. Sort of. Here goes. There was a rustle of paper, and then, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to get so bad. I never thought you'd actually leave. I was frustrated and stupid and didn't think it would matter, but it does. I miss you. And I don't know how to undo it. I guess this is me trying. Silence followed. Then the neighbor cleared her throat. That's all it says. No name. Nope. Courier font. If it matters. It doesn't, Gloria said gently. Please fold it up and put it back in the envelope, then drop it off in the file box in the hallway closet. The one with the Sharpie that says private, that's the one. Thank you. She ended the call, tucked the phone into the side drawer, and stood still for a moment, as if waiting to feel something. She didn't. Downstairs, the ship's intercom announced clearance to disembark. Passengers bustled past her door with the giddy shuffle of temporary tourists. She changed into a linen dress, tied a silk scarf around her neck, and slipped her wallet into a crossbody bag. Nia met her at the elevators, sunglasses perched high on her head. Shore day, she grinned. Sunblock or regrets? Gloria smiled faintly. Both, probably. They wandered through old streets where pastel houses leaned into one another like old friends. Key West smelled like salt, conch fritters, and oranges pressed into slushy machines. At a small market tucked between a bookstore and a gallery, Gloria paused. A tray of pendants caught her eye, handcrafted, imperfect. She sifted through them until her fingers landed on one, hammered silver in the shape of a wave. A single blue stone set at the crest. She held it up. The vendor looked at her kindly. It's not flashy, the woman said, but it holds up. I'll take it, Gloria replied. It reminds me that not everything meant to break you does. They walked to a quiet bench near the pier. Nia peeled an orange in slow spirals. After a moment, she turned. Will you ever forgive them? Gloria didn't answer right away. She reached into her tote and pulled out a folder. On the label, in neat handwriting, afterthoughts, essences. She said softly, "And I've stopped spending." She slid the unsigned apology into the folder. "Some debts aren't worth collecting." Nia nodded, biting into a wedge. They sat there for a while, the sun warming their arms, tourists shuffling past with dripping cones and loud shirts. Back on board, Gloria stopped by the ship's concierge desk. She pulled out a blank postcard and wrote slowly, with the calm confidence of someone who no longer needed to prove she was okay. "Still alive, still learning to live, G." She sealed it and handed it to the attendant. "Mail it from the next port," she said. "No return address." That evening she placed the pendant on her nightstand beside her tea. It caught the low light like a ripple. Nothing dramatic, just enduring. She sat at the vanity, brushed her hair back, and met her own eyes in the mirror. "Still here," she whispered, then turned off the light. The email from Nora's office arrived just after breakfast service. A subject line as crisp as the linen napkin folded on Gloria's lap. Subject? Thompson v. Thompson submission confirmation. She read it twice, then once more, slower, letting each word settle like a chess piece taking its square. The legal team had filed a formal dispute to the University Board and Financial Aid Office, citing misappropriation of funds, falsified documents, and recorded behavioral misconduct. Attached was the submission packet, nearly 50 pages long. Gloria scrolled through it as the sea rolled quietly outside her window. There, in sequence, financial statements, forged requests, Lacey's digital trail, and near the end, a cell phone video submitted anonymously. It was the checkout line, clear as memory, Lacey shoving the card into her, Gloria wobbling slightly, then steadying herself, all while Lacey stared into her phone and muttered, "Move already." The file ended with several screenshots pulled from Lacey's public TikTok profile. Hashtags like #AncientEnergy and captions that read like mockery with good lighting. Gloria closed the laptop, exhaled slowly, and stood. She changed into a blazer she hadn't worn since Brent's retirement dinner. It still fit, still sharp. By noon, she was on a video call with the university's conduct board, her attorney, Nora, present on one corner of the split screen. "We appreciate your time, Mrs. Thompson," the moderator began. "You requested to make a personal statement." Gloria nodded. Her voice didn't waver. "What she took wasn't just time," she said. "It wasn't just money, or silence, or patience. What she took, what she tried to take, was my outline, the shape of my legacy, the story I spent decades building." There was no tremor in her voice, just gravity. "I am not here to humiliate her, but I am done protecting her from the consequences." She walked toward eyes open. The moderator thanked her. The rest was left to process. 2 days later, the decision arrived via email while Gloria and Nia were sipping ginger water on the upper deck. Subject: appeal denied, disciplinary outcome finalized. Lacey's scholarship partner had formally rescinded all future support. The appeal to reinstate her was declined. A notation would remain on her student record pending completion of a restorative ethics review. "Restorative," Gloria murmured. "Let's hope that's what it becomes." She didn't forward the email to Brent, didn't need to. Instead, she opened a blank document and began outlining her next step. Title: Dignity doesn't expire, but... She paused, stared at the cursor blinking at her, then hit delete. New title: I'm not your delay, just your origin story. That night, after dinner, she met with the ship's event coordinator to reserve the mid-deck conference lounge for the following week. It would be her test run. A small event, just a few passengers. A conversation about respect, erasure, and the aging woman's voice. "What's the topic?" the coordinator asked, typing briskly. "Elder dignity," Gloria replied. "And rewriting the narrative before someone else finishes it for you." She walked out of the office lighter, her heels clicking with confidence she hadn't worn in years. Back in her room, Nia sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by pamphlets and notebook scraps. "What's all this?" Gloria asked. Nia looked up, sheepish. "I was thinking, if you're going to talk, maybe I can build the website for it. I'm not great, but I know some WordPress." Gloria blinked, then smiled. "You don't have to." "I know," Nia interrupted. "That's why I want to—" Gloria bent down, joined her on the floor. "We'll need a logo," she said. "Something that says we stayed standing." Nia reached for a pen. "What about a tree?" "Only if the roots are showing." They worked late, the sea humming beneath them like approval. In the quiet, Gloria thought again about that video. Her body jolting, her silence steady. The world had watched it without knowing what came next. Now they would. And it wouldn't be a breakdown. It would be a keynote. The auditorium lights dimmed to half as Gloria stepped onto the stage. Her heels clicked softly against the polished wood, echoing in the hush that had settled over the packed rows of students, faculty, and administrators. The university banner hung stiff behind her, gold and navy, like the colors on the diploma Lacey once framed, now folded into suspension. Gloria didn't look nervous. She looked inevitable. She approached the lectern slowly, hands steady, a simple flash drive in her grip. The dean nodded from the front row. Somewhere backstage, Nia waited, her phone ready to record. No grand music, no sponsor reel. Just a hush deep enough to reveal every cough, every breath. Gloria plugged in the drive. The projector flickered to life. Behind her, the first slide wasn't a title. It was a photo, Lacey, age 6, in an oversized Halloween costume, clutching a pumpkin with both hands and grinning like the world was still small enough to hold between her teeth. Gasps scattered through the room. Gloria's voice came, quiet but sure. I raised someone here, I cooked for her here. I sat in these chairs for parent-teacher conferences. I paid for dance classes she forgot and therapy sessions she wouldn't admit helped. I've been here, she said, in your parking lots, in your bank lines, on your emergency contact forms. I've been here without credit, without complaint until recently. The next slide showed a screen capture. Lacey's video, the shove, the caption, #mean grandma energy, and the emoji trail of laughing faces, a silence dropped like velvet. I was told this was a lapse in judgment, Gloria said. That stress explains cruelty, that youth guarantees return. But I want to ask something different today. She paused, scanned the crowd. What happens when a lifetime of unpaid love is met with public erasure? A few students shifted in their seats. She clicked again. Receipts, birthday cards, grocery lists from years ago, photos of her crocheting a scarf while Lacey slept on the couch. You don't age out of love, Gloria said softly, and no one deserves to age out of dignity. In the front row, a professor with silver hair removed her glasses and wiped her eyes. Gloria stepped back from the lectern. I'm not a lesson. I'm a mirror. And I want the next version of me, sitting quiet in some dining room, overlooked and expected, to know she is not invisible, not disposable, not expired. The applause didn't begin all at once. It started with one student, then two. Then the ripple became a wave. By the time she walked off stage, the room was on its feet. Backstage, Nia met her with wide eyes and a trembling phone. You went viral, she whispered, waving the screen. They're already clipping it. On Instagram. Someone from HuffPost just DM'd me. Gloria blinked. That fast? Nia nodded, tears pushing forward. It's real. Later, while they waited outside the dean's office, still humming from the afterglow of impact, a faculty coordinator stepped into the hall. They'd like to offer you something, she said. A position, guest lecturer, mentor, maybe even liaison. Elder inclusion work is sorely overdue. Gloria didn't smile. She simply nodded, as though accepting something that had been hers all along. Inside the office, voices buzzed. Decisions were being made. But in the hall, Nia pulled out a pen and scribbled a note across her arm. What are you doing? Gloria asked. Reminding myself, Nia said, what a beginning looks like. Gloria didn't reply. She didn't have to. Outside, the sky was overcast, but light still poured through the windows like something newly invited. She stood at the edge of that hallway, no longer a bystander, and this time no one would dare push her out of the frame. The morning after the keynote, Gloria woke to three things. The low hum of her phone vibrating on the nightstand, a draft of sunlight curling across the sheets, and a sense, familiar now, of unflinching clarity. She didn't check the messages. She didn't need to. Instead, she opened her contact list and scrolled down. Lacey. She hovered there for a second. Not in hesitation, more like acknowledgement. Then she tapped, block this caller. Confirmed once, then again. A notification flashed. You will no longer receive calls, texts, or FaceTime from this contact. Good. She tapped over to her estate planning app. Nora had helped her set it up weeks ago. Password protected, double authenticated, cleanly structured. One by one, she removed Lacey from every point of digital access. Executive permissions, shared folders, cloud backups. Her name vanished from the emergency access codes, the document vault, the legacy account recovery system. Then Gloria paused at the final setting. Digital beneficiary block list. She toggled it on. Ad name, Lacey Harper Thompson. Reason, boundary enforcement, violation of trust. She typed it out, without blinking, saved it, logged out. That door, once cracked, was now sealed airtight. By mid-morning, she and Nia sat on the ship's upper deck, a warm breeze lifting loose hairs from both their temples. A pad of notes sat between them, pages scribbled with timelines, phrases, draft missions. Gloria circled one with a felt-tip pen, the Balcony Fund. "You sure that's the name?" Nia asked gently. "It started here," Gloria replied, gesturing toward the sea beyond. Looking out, getting above it. Balcony means perspective, means air. "And you want to give it to women?" "To women like you," Gloria said. "Women who were left out of wills. Out of rooms, out of conversations. It won't be a gift, it'll be an investment, in their names, not mine." Nia blinked fast, but said nothing, just nodded and wrote. That afternoon, the ship's conference board met in a curtained lounge off the main atrium. Gloria stood at the head of the table, her blazer pressed, her notes clipped in a sleek folder. The same confidence she'd walked off the university stage with. She wore it like armor now. "This isn't a vanity project," she said. "This is a redirection, a reclamation of what was once folded quietly into other people's futures." She handed out brochures mock-designed by Nia, modest, clean, logos stamped in silver foil, a tree whose roots mirrored its branches. By the time she was done speaking, the vote was unanimous. The Balcony Fund was approved for launch. The first round of microgrants would go to adult learners over 50 returning to community college programs, the next to retired women re-entering the workforce after caregiving. Back in their cabin, Nia opened a bottle of sparkling water and poured them each a glass. Gloria tapped hers gently to Nia's. "To something that doesn't end with me," she said. "To something that begins with you," Nia replied. They sipped quietly, the clink of glass their only toast. Later that night, as Gloria settled into her journal, her hand paused mid-sentence. A single sentence had begun forming hours ago and refused to leave her. She wrote it slowly, each word deliberate. "She shoved me once. Now I lift others daily," she underlined it. Not as a quote, as a commitment. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't check it. Instead, she closed her notebook, walked to the balcony, and leaned into the night air. Below, the waves stirred with a steady rhythm. Above, a scatter of stars blinked into clarity. Some names fade, others rise. And hers, finally, was beginning again. By the time the ship docked in Charleston, Gloria's inbox had exploded. It wasn't spam. It wasn't even questions. It was letters. Real ones. Typed in odd fonts, plain black courier, flowing Garamond, even the occasional Comic Sans. All from women. Women who had watched her speech. Women who had seen the TikToks. Women who had sat at dining tables just like hers, holding silence like it was cutlery. Subject lines read like awakenings. "I finally locked the door. Your story was mine." I said no for the first time. She read them slowly, in the quiet part of morning, when the ship's engines hummed low and the staff whispered in hallways. Nia had printed one out, folded neatly and tucked into Gloria's breakfast tray. Gloria opened it last. "Dear Miss Thompson, I'm 72. I've cared for everyone, husband, children, my parents, until they passed. I missed my chance to go to college. I used to think I missed everything. Then I saw your speech and that line, 'You don't age out of dignity.' It broke me open. I finally said no, just once, but it felt like something inside me stood up for the first time in years. Thank you. Marlene T., Ohio." Gloria folded the letter with care and slid it between the pages of her journal, just behind the cruise itinerary and the printout from Lacey's hearing. The new weight felt right, like a second spine. Nia walked in just then, carrying 2 mugs of chamomile. "More fan mail?" she asked, grinning. Gloria smirked. "They keep coming." Nia handed her the mug. "We started something." The words landed warm. Not boastful. Just true. Gloria sipped, then glanced at the calendar on her tablet. "I'll be 70 in August," she said. "You know what that means?" Nia raised an eyebrow. "Matching tattoos?" Gloria laughed, a real one, throat deep and belly steady. "I was thinking more ocean breeze and a new passport stamp." She opened her travel app, thumb hovering. "Same line?" Nia asked. Gloria shook her head. "No, new waters." A A second cruise, solo again. She tapped the concierge chat. Typed, looking to book a new cruise, turning 70, surprise me. The reply came instantly. We have just the thing. That evening, the dining room glowed with soft amber chandeliers and the hush of low conversation. Gloria dressed with intention, linen pressed, earrings she hadn't worn in a decade, and around her neck she clasped the pendant she'd bought in Key West, silver and blue, forged like a wave mid-rise. Naya sat across from her in a black jumpsuit she kept trying to smooth, nerves tucked behind lip gloss. You know, Nia said, you don't look 70. I'm not, Gloria replied with a wink. Not yet. They clinked glasses of sparkling cider. To beginnings, Nia said. To second drafts, Gloria returned. Halfway through dessert, a flourless chocolate torte with raspberry glaze, a woman stopped by their table, 60-ish, well-dressed, eyes soft with recognition. Miss Thompson, she said gently, I just wanted to say thank you. I teach gender studies. Your keynote, we're building a seminar around it. Gloria nodded once. Then maybe something good will grow from it. When the woman walked away, Naya looked across the table. Does it feel like revenge yet? She asked, playful. Gloria thought for a moment. No, she said. It feels like remembering. They finished dessert in companionable silence, the hum of dishes and soft jazz blending around them like evening fog. Later that night, Gloria stood at the railing, pendant cold against her chest, fingers curled around the edge like someone claiming her space by right. Behind her, no buzzing phone, no unanswered calls, no digital ghosts. Ahead, the ocean. She raised an imaginary toast to the stars, no crumbs, no leftover bitterness, just warmth and waves. The email from HuffPost arrived on a Tuesday. Gloria was ironing linen napkins when the subject line lit her screen. Subject, feature confirmed. Publication Thursday. Her hands froze mid-crease. She set the iron aside gently, like she might set down a live wire. The article was real now. No longer drafts passed between her and Nia. No longer late-night edits over ginger tea. Just a headline, a byline, and a story they were calling Inheritance Isn't Entitlement, How One Woman Redrew the Line. AP followed within hours, then Refinery 29, then The Cut. The interviews were brisk but respectful. Editors called her measured. Commenters called her a blueprint. One user wrote, "She gave me permission to not answer that call anymore." That one stayed with her. By the end of the week, Gloria's inbox was bursting again, this time with media inquiries. But she kept her calendar clear except for one line circled in violet ink. National Elder Justice Summit keynote, Gloria Thompson. She packed light. Just one suitcase and a manila folder of letters she wasn't yet ready to throw away. Nia met her at the gate, beaming, laptop slung over her shoulder, camera bag in hand. They're calling it the most anticipated keynote of the conference, she said, scrolling. And apparently you've got fans flying in from 3 different states. Gloria gave a soft smile. Then I suppose I'll need to wear lipstick. The summit was held in a sweeping conference center in Denver, all glass panels and clean lines. The backdrop behind the stage read, "Dignity is a right, not a favor." It felt right. Before her speech, a short video played, clips from her first talk on the cruise, spliced with anonymous testimonies from women who'd seen it. One said, "I named my scholarship after her." Another, "I asked to be taken off the will. I want to build something that's mine." Then came the standing ovation, but the twist came after. As Gloria stepped down from the stage, light soft against her skin, she saw them. 5 women standing near the back of the hall, women she'd first met on the ship. Marlene from Ohio, the retired school nurse from Georgia, the bookstore owner from Michigan, each now standing taller, eyes clear, posture changed. They came forward. One hugged her. Another just placed her hand over Gloria's and nodded. "You didn't just speak," one said. "You lit a path." Gloria couldn't find the words right away, but maybe that was the point. She didn't need to. That night, at the closing ceremony, she was handed a crystal plaque that caught the light like a flame held still. Voice of Dignity. She didn't cry. She held it with both hands, bowed her head slightly, and whispered, "Let it last longer than the applause." Later, back in her hotel room, she opened her phone for the first time in hours. Notifications flared. Most were congratulations. Some were alerts. Lacey, new Instagram story. The caption read, "Regret doesn't rewind, it just replays differently." overlaid on an old photo of the two of them at a farmer's market years ago. Gloria mid-laugh, Lacey wearing oversized sunglasses and an indifferent expression. The post was tagged. Gloria tapped the 3 dots, remove tag. Then she opened the photo app on her phone, found every image that tethered her to a version of herself that had waited, explained, softened. Delete. She looked out the window where the Denver skyline flickered against a settling dusk. I had access, Gloria said aloud. Then she chose speed. There was no anger in her voice, just fact. Behind her, Nia was on the hotel bed, cross-legged with her laptop open. You ready for tomorrow? She asked. Gloria nodded. I don't know what it's called yet, she said, but I know what it isn't. She walked to the desk, opened her journal, and began outlining her next project. Working title, Quiet Women Loud Good. The final chapter clicked into place just after dawn. Gloria sat at her desk in the soft hush of morning. The ship anchored in calm waters outside her window, the horizon brushing against pink and gold. The crew's cabin smelled faintly of lavender from the sachet Nia had tucked under her pillow. Her journal lay open beside her, a familiar companion now, filled margin to margin with the bones of her story. But this wasn't a journal entry. This was the last line of a manuscript. She typed it slowly, letting her fingers linger over each key. It wasn't revenge, it was release, and that was always enough. She leaned back, hands resting in her lap, eyes on the screen. The cursor blinked at the end of the final sentence, like it too needed a breath. Her memoir, checked, not claimed, was finished. The title had come to her one evening while sipping peppermint tea on the observation deck, watching luggage carts shuffle on shore in the distance. She had thought of all the invisible labor, the unseen weight carried by women who had been checked into every role, mother, wife, caretaker, but rarely claimed as individuals. It wasn't a grievance. It was a naming. She saved the file, exported the draft, and uploaded it to the publisher's portal just as the sun crested into full view. Later that afternoon, her phone buzzed with a notification. Nia, who had been quietly refreshing the sales dashboard from her own cabin, burst into Gloria's doorway without knocking, her eyes wide with delight. "It's sold out," she said, breathless. "The first print run. Gone in under 4 hours." Gloria blinked once, then again. "Gone?" she echoed, barely above a whisper. Nia nodded, holding out the screen as proof. "Gone. Pre-orders, bundles, everything. They're rushing a second batch, and bookstores are asking for events." But Gloria didn't reach for the phone. Instead, she looked out the porthole, where the sea rolled gently beneath a wide, forgiving sky. Her reflection hovered faintly on the glass, older, sharper, whole. That evening she dressed in soft linen, the same pale blue shade as the pendant resting against her collarbone. The wave design shimmered faintly under the cabin light, its edges smooth from days of wear. She pinned her hair back, applied a muted rose lipstick, and stepped out into the hallway where laughter and silverware already echoed through the ship. As she entered the dining hall, the lights dimmed slightly, and a hush swept the room. Not silence exactly, but anticipation wrapped in affection. The cruise captain, a tall man with graying temples and kind eyes, met her near the front table. In his hands he held a book, her book, fresh off the press. The cover, a quiet blend of slate and cream, the title embossed in silver foil. He extended it to her like a ceremonial gift. "I heard the story before I saw the speech," he said, voice low but sure, "but I knew the voice in both." Gloria accepted it with both hands. "If anyone deserves to sail unburdened," he added, "it's you." She thanked him, then placed the copy on the table beside her glass, spine upright, the cover facing the room. Nia appeared a moment later carrying a cake modest in size, iced in soft white, no candles, just one word across the top, written in delicate blue piping, applause. She set it down with a sheepish grin. "No candles, just applause." "You've burned through enough years," Gloria laughed, not the polished kind, but the deep, reaching kind that rises when something inside finally feels seen. A slow clap began at a nearby table, then another, and soon the room swelled with the rhythm of appreciation. Not for spectacle, but for substance. Gloria raised her glass, letting the quiet between clinks hold something sacred. "To what was never owed," she said, "but always earned." They toasted, glasses catching the warm glow of the chandeliers. Later, as the ship rocked gently beneath her, She returned to her cabin and placed the signed book on the nightstand beside her original cruise itinerary, the one she never really followed but always honored in spirit. She glanced once more at the pendant in the mirror's reflection. It caught the cabin light like a soft promise, unflashy, but unbreakable. Then she turned off the light. Not in closure, but in confidence. Checkout at last was complete. The envelope was waiting for her when she returned from breakfast, cream-colored, no return address, tucked carefully under the cabin door, as if someone had wanted it to feel like part of the room, not an intrusion. Gloria turned it over in her hands, thumb brushing the seal, before sitting down at the writing desk she now thought of as her second spine. The cabin was quiet. Sunlight filtered in through the curtains, casting soft lines across the floor, like the bars of a bird cage finally open. She opened it. The letter was handwritten in neat cursive, the kind taught in schools when ink still mattered. Dear Miss Thompson, you don't know me, but I knew your granddaughter, if only for a semester. She made a joke once in front of me, called you a fossil with opinions. Everyone laughed. I didn't. I never said anything. I should have, but I didn't. Then your video appeared, and your speech, and something in your silence when you stood still after the shove, when you didn't strike back but didn't collapse either. Something in that silence said everything I needed to hear. You reminded me that dignity doesn't need volume, it just needs space. Thank you. A former classmate, but now a better woman. Gloria read the letter twice, then once more aloud, as if saying the words would make them stay longer. Her voice didn't crack, but something in her chest softened, a wall not crumbling, but settling into its final foundation. She folded the letter with the care usually reserved for photos or prayers. Then she opened the burgundy leather binder. Every page inside was clean, indexed, labeled, the living will, the trust documents, the exclusions, the authorizations. But there was one last thing left to do. She took out her pen, the heavy one Nora had gifted her after the cruise keynote, the one engraved with her name and the words, "Write what they tried to erase," and turned to the final tab marked Executor. There, in the empty line once reserved as a placeholder, she wrote, Executive of Estate, Nia Bennett. Relationship to decedent, chosen. She initialed it, dated it, closed the binder with a soft click. It was not a dramatic act, not an act of rebellion or sentiment. It was simply the last sentence in a story already long overdue for punctuation. Later that day, Nia returned to the cabin with postcards from the gift shop and a half-empty iced coffee she'd forgotten to finish. She stopped when she saw the binder on the desk. "You sure?" she asked, setting everything down gently. Gloria looked at her, calm and unsentimental. "Respect is earned," she said, "but protection can be written." Nia swallowed. "I'll honor it. I know." As the sky shifted toward late afternoon, Gloria changed into a light wrap and stepped out onto the balcony. The ocean below was still, not glass flat but rhythmic, like a slow breath rising and falling beneath her. She stood there for a long time, one hand on the railing, the other resting at her side. Her eyes moved with the water, not seeking anything, just keeping company with the present. No phones rang, no emails pinged. No footsteps hurried toward her with someone else's crisis. She was alone and whole. The pendant around her neck lifted slightly in the breeze. A gull passed overhead, dipping low before gliding back into the sky's quiet. Gloria smiled faintly, not because something had ended, but because it had landed. She turned back toward the cabin, stepped inside, and sat down at the desk once more. Her laptop still glowed from earlier. Her finger hovered over the trackpad, then clicked open the memoir draft. One line blinked at the bottom of the document. Final sentence. She typed it slowly, letting her fingers linger over each key. It wasn't revenge, it was release. And that was always enough. She leaned back, hands resting in her lap, eyes on the screen. The cursor stopped blinking. And for once, nothing needed to happen next.